Let's come on to one which perhaps is more well-known, more often cited these days, and indeed was cited in 2021 at a panel at the college named after Churchill in Cambridge. And that is the whole incident, the affair of the Bengal Famine. Perhaps of all of the allegations now made about Winston Churchill, this is the one, I don't know if you agree, that seems to come up most.
Oh, and it's the worst, of course, as well, yes, because it essentially makes him into a mass murderer and a deliberate war criminal almost. I go into this, as you can imagine, as a result, over about 6 pages in my book, and in that panel that you refer to in February 2021, it was held in all places, with the actual Churchill College, Cambridge. They said that as a result of this, Winston Churchill was worse than Hitler, and these are 4 people on the panel and a moderator, and nobody, not one of the people, said that is the most absurd statement it's possible to make. Do you mind if I just talk about the Bengal Famine and tell you what happened? In October 1942, a terrible typhoon hit the east coast of India, and it knocked out all the rail and road communications into Bengal. And under normal circumstances, what the British had done in India for generations before was to buy in rice to alleviate the famine from places like Thailand and Malaya and Burma. And of course, all of those 3 places were under the control of the Japanese by 1942. And so that was impossible. It was very soon after the typhoon that Churchill started to ask the Dominion Prime Ministers and also the President of the United States to send food to India. But the trouble was that the Bay of Bengal was rife with Japanese submarines. And they had, in fact, in the April of 1942, they'd shelled cities on the eastern seaboard. And so these attacks on Churchill, which, apart from anything else, are historically incorrect, what they're saying, they simply don't take into account the fact that the Second World War was going on at the time, you know, and it wasn't as simple as just moving food into the devastated areas. I don't think there's any Churchill historian who denies that a terrible famine took place in which millions of people died, but the idea that Churchill wanted these people to die and did nothing to help them. And one only has to read the telegrams he sent to the Viceroy of India, Lord Wavell, to appreciate that this is absolute rubbish.
The evidence you lay out in the book shows that, I think, conclusively, but it still is a meme which seems to be going around faster than any other.
And the reason is that Churchill made what we today would be considered to be completely unacceptable racist jokes about Indians, and he called them a beastly people with a beastly religion at one point, and these were, of course, unacceptable remarks to make. But the idea that because he said that to one cabinet minister, by the way, it's not; these aren't double checked by anybody else. Right. That he wanted these people to die is just an enormous sort of leap of woke faith, essentially.
But it's a leap that a lot of people have been willing to make, and it seems that this issue of the assault on Churchill keeps coming back to a few claims about his views on race and religion. There have been attempts to claim that he was anti-Jewish, as well as anti-Muslim, and much more. What is true and not in all this?
Well, I mean, you mentioned the Jewish thing. He was an absolute philo-Semite. He liked Jews, which, by the way, was rather unlikely for somebody of his age and class and background. The British Victorian upper classes were notoriously anti-Semitic. And so I think you have to see him in the context of being a Victorian. When he was born, Charles Darwin was still alive. He was therefore brought up believing, as everybody else was at the time, this odious and, to our modern ears, completely ludicrous concept of a hierarchy of the races, where the white man was on top. And he considered that to be a scientific fact. And this is the reason that he is accused of racism, because he essentially did believe that, that there was a hierarchy of the races. But the idea that meant that he wanted people who were not white to die in their millions is a complete travesty, because actually he also believed that there was a hierarchy of the classes, and he thought that having been born in a palace, the grandson of a duke, he had a profound responsibility to the, with that kind of privilege, profound responsibility to everybody else in society. And that's what drove him, this the concept of Tory democracy, you know, that he had to sort of pay for his privilege in a way that helped ordinary people. And that extended to the empire as well. He was proud of how many people were born into the empire, of how much it was growing in terms of numbers. And so I'm afraid it's a historical inaccuracy, but also, as I keep saying, it's also a ideological, political campaign that's being waged.